Is being brought to you by Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Join us in preserving and protecting Tennessee's wildlife. All right, and speaking of Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, we have one of their best. I tell you what, David Sims on the show tonight with us. And I'm like, if you're like me, I've already learned a ton from him tonight. But I'll tell you what, he's going to take us one step further. Before you start calling in and before the phone calls start coming in, let's take a look, because what we showed you about the washboard mussel, he said it's twofold. It also is very productive as far as the cash flow for it's used to help make the culture of pearl, right?
Correct.
Now, how do they do it, David?
Well, what they do, they take that big shell. Of course, they'll take the live animal, bring it in, and they cook it out because they don't want the animal. They just want the shell.
They just want the shell.
And they end up with a shell, and then they take that shell and they'll cut it into great big strips. You can show them the strips.
Yeah, let's see this.
Of course, with that big shell, it would be a lot bigger.
Oh, yeah. This is just a regular shell, but you see how they strip it here?
You can see how thick it is.
That's right.
And then they would cut it into big squares.
Then they cut it into cubes or squares. That's amazing.
And then they end up with a secret process that only is done in Asia. There's no company in America that knows how to make them perfectly round. The bead.
The bead.
That's the bead or the blank. That's what goes inside the oyster out in the ocean. That's the beginning of a cultured pearl. They put that inside that live saltwater oyster, and it coats it 1 or 2 times. With Tennessee shells, it's usually just 1 time because they're so pure, no streaks.
Right.
And so then they go back after a year and kill it and take it out, and that's a cultured pearl. All that saltwater oyster is doing is putting that real shiny part, coating it with that iridescent part.
He's just coating it with that right there to make it look like a real pearl.
Correct.
And oh my goodness, that is so amazing that they've got it on there like that. But to go from this to this, and you're saying China is the only country that can do this?
Correct. No one in the United States has been able to figure out how to do that.
My goodness.
That's their little trade secret.
And it is perfectly round.
Right. That's all they'll use. Now the difference between that's a cultured pearl. Now the difference between that and this one here, that's the natural pearl.
This is a natural pearl.
Yes, and this is the animal that it actually come out of, and you can see where it fits right there.
Oh my goodness, it did.
And that's not a very big shell.
Look at how it fit in there. I may have it upside down for all I know, but
oh yeah.
But that is a real pearl. Ladies, call me. I might can hook you up. That is, if my wife doesn't take this out of my hand.
Yeah, I've had to be pretty slick with that one myself. To keep it from my wife.
Your wife's probably, husband, I sent you with new boots tonight.
Yeah.
But that is amazing that it comes out of this like that. Now, this is an ocean.
No, that's a freshwater. That's
okay.
That one's called a purple wartyback. And that one this one actually come out of that one looks like it come out of the Cumberland rivers where that animal come from.
Okay.
And what happened, that one died at our facility at Gallatin. Whenever we were closing it down, that was one that I found. It had died in the raceways that we had.
Okay.
And I just happened to shake it.
Now, would this, in your estimation, what do you think this pearl is worth?
Was worth probably, I was told $300.
$300
for that one. And you'll get a pearl in about 1 in every 10,000 shells. So it's not like you're not going
to find them in every shell, are you?
No, that's the only one of any size that I've ever found out of all the dealings with them that we've had.
Now, David, during the break, you said that poaching used to be a major problem.
Right.
Is it still a problem going on today?
No. It was the mid 1990s. Until the late 1990s is when the cultured pearl industry was really big, and then the washboards were their main shell that they were wanting, and those animals were worth about $8 to $9 a pound, and the one that Hugh showed a while ago was that one was worth about $35. Just that one.
Just that one.
So they were hard to catch, these guys, because they knew they could make $2,000 and $3,000 in a night.
Did they mainly do it at night?
Well, in the refuges.
In the refuges.
We're talking about where the refuges are about the
okay.
only place you could find the great big ones, because
Okay.
they'd already harvested all the other ones out
Right.
in the open waters.
Now, we know that birdsong on Kentucky Lake, birdsong is the cultured pearl capital for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Mainly because of its place on the Tennessee River. I've been in there. I've been to birdsong. I've seen his process there. They ship it out all over the world.
Correct. Yeah, they go to Asia, to Australia. They do. They end up everywhere.
Joe and I happened to meet the master pearl grader for the United States. He's the only person that's able to judge a pearl and give it its worth.
Oh, wow.
And his name is Peach. He used to be I believe, a senator or something here in Tennessee. But James Peach was his name. You know him. But
yeah.
He took Joe and I through his facility. Oh my Lord! At the pearls, the cultural pearls, he had some is what rocks,
they get
rocks.
huge. They sure do. They can. The only thing that limits the size is the amount they can open those live animals in the ocean. They can't. They can only open them so much, or they'll rip the muscles, the two muscles that hold them shut. Otherwise, they could put them in whatever size they can manufacture.
Now, does somebody have to be really trained to even put that in there?
Yeah, it's a surgical thing that they have to do. It's not something you can do out in the open. You have to. They give the animals some anesthesia to slow them down, and so they don't feel any pain or anything. That relaxes them. Then they put them in there. It's a little surgery that they do on each and individual, every one of them that they do.
So how long a process would it take for say, once it comes from a washboard mussel, they cut it in a cube and send it back to China or send it to China?
Correct.
To get it perfectly round. Then they send it back here?
Well, once they do all the coating in the saltwater oysters are over usually in Asia, China, Japan, and the South Sea. Anywhere where those saltwater oysters are, they're down at Birdsong. They have the freshwater version of it, which they will use the war sports, and actually implant them in them. I think they even sold. You could buy the live animal out there that they had that was coating the bead, and you could buy the animal and come in and actually do it yourself, take it out, and you'd have a cultured pearl that you could buy.
And this is amazing. I'm telling you, I wanted to ask you one question right quick. About how many different species of the mussel do we have here in Tennessee?
In Tennessee, it's 129 or 130. Well, that's how many used to be here.
Okay.
The amount that we can probably find now would be, I'm going to say 80, around 80. And those other ones are already extinct or gone.
I got to ask you, the zebra mussel. I mean, we see this as fishermen. We go to different lakes around, especially if you go to Garnersville, you follow places like that, and then you go to Kentucky Lake and on up into Kentucky. There are signs about the zebra mussel.
Correct.
How bad is he?
It can be bad. They're on the Cumberland already, but they've been on the Cumberland a long time. But Tennessee seems to be just a little bit out of their range. It must be getting a little too warm. And there's too many fish that like to eat them because they're. If you want to hold that one, that little guy right there, they get bigger. They get 3 times that
This is a zebra mussel.
That's what it looks. You can see where
and
it gets
he's
his
on
name.
a rock now. He's not the size of this rock. That's him up there on top of that rock.
And they stick to anything hard. The freshwater, they'll cover up freshwater mussels and kill them. Is how they reproduce. They don't have to have fish host, so that's their big advantage. They just squirt them out and have millions of young.
Now, what do they do? I mean, why are they so bad? Is because they just suffocate the other mussels?
Well, that plus the main problem up north when they come into the United States was they clog all the pipes. I mean, they'll get inside the pipes and steel pipes. They clog up. I mean, they'll start grabbing on. And
you can't call Roto-Rooter out there.
No, not for that. That won't get them out.
Can't call the drain dodger, but it's there. Well, so. And when you say they make a puff, like they puff out the little larvae and everything,
Those would just be little babies when they puff them out.
And they're just thousands.
Millions.
Millions.
There'll be a bunch. Tens of thousands probably for each individual one of those. They're in areas where they're doing good, they're doing real good. But here in Tennessee, thankfully, we've seen them. Well, this week we dove for, I don't know how many hours we had on the bottom of the Tennessee River this week down there below Pickwick. And let's see, I saw 2. I think the other boat saw 2 more, so 4. But in years past, we've seen, you'd see them, shoot, in an hour, you'd probably find 5 or 6. So it's just like everything else, sort of goes up and down.
Goes up and down in cycles.
And it's been down for a long time, though, thank goodness.
Well, I tell you what, we are learning so much on this right here. Callers, please hang on for just a few minutes. We're going to take a break right quick and visit some of our Vine sponsors. When we come back, we got a great recipe from you, from some pretty gals over here. And the way they're cooking, the way you're smelling, they may be in trouble. They might not have anything to show.
They better hurry up.
Let's hurry back to more Southern Woods and Waters.